Good to see each one of you. I hope that you've had a good afternoon and the things that you've engaged in have been honorable. Even if you did take a nap, that's okay. Maybe watched a little television or got caught up on some rest, whatever. But we're good to see you, especially those who are worshiping with us tonight online. So glad that you're with us also. Tonight, as we talk about the other side of forgiveness, which I guess you've already figured it out, is guilt. Guilt's on the other side of forgiveness. Now, it may vary from person to person, but everybody feels guilty about something at some time. Looming over the average person is the conflict of right and wrong, good and evil, guilt or innocence. Psychiatrists and psychologists work with this problem. Great emotional damage is done by guilt. That's why Jesus said, "Ye that labor and are heavy laden, come to me." It's a heavy burden, it's a heavy laden. Come to me and I'll give you rest. That's where we go to get relief. So as our scripture reading tonight, the way of him that is laden with guilt is exceedingly wicked. Shakespeare said, "The mind of guilt is full of scorpions." Guilt is deadly. Guilt is wicked. Guilt is the emotion mankind shares with no other creature. You don't share it with your dog or your cat or your birds or the animals of the field. You do not share it with anything else. Man alone can have a painful feeling of self-disapproval, resulting from the belief that they have done something wrong or they've done something that's immoral. And so we learn guilt from various sources. We also feel guilt in many degrees and for different reasons. Some guilt feelings can be good, resulting in the beginning of a new and a better life for us. Guilt can be conscious. It can be underlying. It can be unconscious, subconscious. We may not know why that uncomfortable feeling that gives us ill at ease, that bothersome emotion, we don't know maybe sometimes where it comes from, but we're sensitive to it. We feel like we're guilty about something. And so to have a better understanding of the various causes of the symptoms of guilt, we better understand ourselves and the reactions to the situation. We want to understand ourselves. And so as our understanding increases, I believe we can rid ourselves of that nagging twinge that somehow gives us worry and stress and anxiety and fear that I've done something wrong. I've heard people say, "I just feel so guilty about that." You ever said that? Maybe you feel that way tonight. I just feel so guilty about that. Well, unless there is guilt, there is no need for forgiveness. And so guilt is the state of having done wrong. Wrong is unrighteous. So what causes guilt? What causes it? Well, sometimes it can be our childhood experiences that we were around our parents, and parents scold children a lot of times for various acts. They scold children for spilling the milk or spilling a drink or spilling something or breaking a dish or slamming a door or hitting a brother or sister or crossing the street unattended, not responding to toilet training, not eating all your green beans, failing to say thank you. The list is endless. Guilt feelings result from some of the protections and the betterment of the child, others to trouble us and haunt us for years to come. Did your mother ever give you this speech? When she tilts her head, she puts one foot in front of the other and the hand on the hip and says, "I carried you for 9 months. I changed your diaper. I've wiped your nose. I've done everything. I've set up with you when you had fever. And young man, you don't talk to me like that. You think birth pains are painful? You better watch it. I'll slap that smile right off of your face." You ever had that speech given to you? Oh, I have. It's not pretty. Sometimes Sometimes, though, I'd rather my parent whip me than talk to me. My dad used to say, son, come here and sit down. You need an attitude adjustment. And so we'd have this little talk, and he did most of the talking. But sometimes he'd jerk you. He's left-handed. He could get his belt off quicker as a left-handed person than I could. And one time he told me, he said, son, said, this hurts me worse than it does you. I said, Dad, this don't hurt either one of us. I shouldn't have said that. Business picked up. And so they say, aren't you ashamed? Aren't you ashamed of that? And then they sigh and they act disgusted. If I were to ask you tonight to give me that disgusted feeling on your face, give it to me. Just sit there and act like you're disgusted. Sure, that's scary. If I had to look at that, I'd feel guilty. I'd know I'd done something wrong. And so when they sigh, they shrug their shoulders. They say to the kid, don't act silly. That's what kids do. They act silly. And you tell me to do something that's unnatural. Just act silly. So we're told not to act silly. So when I get to be an adult and I want to let my hair down, some people can't let their hair down. Now I can. If you've ever been around, I can. Some people are afraid to act silly as adults because they feel guilty. Somehow they haven't got rid of that because mom and dad told them when they were a kid, don't act silly. And they can't get rid of that. Well, we're supposed to obey our parents according to Ephesians 6 and verse 1. But when I was a kid, now I'm a dinosaur and I'm going to date myself. My family, my mom and dad said you can't play with face cards in the house. You know what face cards are? They thought that was gambling. Now we could play old maid or we could play go fish with those cards, but you couldn't play with those face cards. That's what they call them, face cards. The kind they use in the casino. They thought, no, you don't know, that's not going to be in this house. No. You can't go swimming or you can't play ball on Sunday. No. Well, I grew up with that. And then I moved to Australia. And my preacher was a young guy who was a graduate of the School of Preaching, mowed his yard one Sunday, and I like to fell apart. I did. You can't mow your yard on Sunday according to my rules. According to what I say. And if I did that, I'd feel guilty. Why? Because mom and daddy said you don't do that. You don't miss services on Sunday unless you're nearly dead. Got a fever. You don't miss services. And so our upbringing is a sense of guilt on an intense scale. Concerned about the children's issues that parents bring up. Parents scold a lot. Basically, children wish to live up to the expectations of their parents, to receive the commendation. My dad wanted me to be a dentist. Can you imagine me being a dentist? Jake, I can't see my. I said, Dad, let's just have this man-to-man talk. I don't want to be a dentist. He sent me to one of the best prep schools in the country. He spent a lot of money to educate me. And he said, you don't want to be a dentist? And he had it all worked out with the senator and the representative who were customers of my dad in his restaurant in the state of North Carolina. And I was going to go to school, and I was going to go to dental school, and they were going to help me, and they were going to pull all these strings. My dad was getting these guys to pull strings. I said, Dad, just stop. I don't want to be a dentist. I don't want to. I have preacher friends right now who are workaholics because of what their dad did to them. They wanted to please their dad, and the dad never did acknowledge that I'm pleased with that. And so they worked themselves to death trying to get the recommendation or a commendation from their parents and never did get it. And so today, they're just working themselves to death at the expense of their families. And I'm trying to tell them, boys, don't do that. You're going to lose your kids. You can save the world, but you'll lose your kids. Don't do that. But they feel so guilty if they don't do all that stuff. They're just working themselves to death. So basically, children wish to live up to the expectations of their parents. Sometimes children misunderstand what's expected of them. And it's never cleared up in adult life. Thou shalt nots hanging over their heads. You shall not listen to rap music. You will not use your devices after 9 o'clock at night. You shall not talk on your phone for any more than 15 minutes at a time. You shall not do that. I remember when we moved into the new building at Maryville. Nice, beautiful place. It came to the attention of the elders that the boys, men's restroom, somebody was going in there and locking the stalls and then crawling out from underneath. And so the stalls were locked. Brother Ben Robertson, one of the elders, got up and in his sweet way he said, "Brethren, it's been called to our attention that we have a problem in the men's restroom. Somebody is locking the doors to the stalls." Now you guys that did that when you were young, talk to your boys about that. Never had another problem. Somebody took care of it. Never had another problem with that. We feel guilty when you fail to do all because you don't know what to do. Parents say sex is dirty. Sex is dirty. Don't go too far. Going too far is a long, long time. A long, long time. When you make a commitment to your spouse, it's for a long, long time. And when talking about sex, don't go too far, they say. And so some of these people grow up and they have hang-ups and they're unable to enjoy the natural relationships between a husband and a wife. I've wondered why, on those talk shows, why they have more women as guests than they do men. You know why? Women are better listeners. Men are fixers. You know, women want to talk. She asks her husband something, he's a fixer, and he says, "Okay, here it is, A, B, C, therefore D." And she says something else. He says, "Well, that didn't work. I'm going to try again. All right, A, B, C, therefore D." That didn't work. She keeps talking. Now he's frustrated. He's going to do it 3 times and he's done. 3 times, he's done. He's finished. You didn't get it the first time, second time, he's done. Women can talk to women 45 minutes about nothing. Just talk. They don't want you to fix it, they want to talk. And so we're raised by a male and a female. Here's my dad, he's a fixer. Here's my mom, she's tender, she's a toucher. She wants to scratch your back. She wants to rub your nose. She wants to, play with your hair. She wants to love you. She wants to touch you. Dad says, "All right, boy, let's go. Tighten up that lip and let's go." Well, you're confused. You don't know what to do. And so you wonder. You wonder about all these things. Parents push kids to perfection. They want them to do things. "Thou shalt nots" hanging over their heads. Made to feel guilty when they fail to do everything that they're expected to do. If we don't keep up with others, we've let somebody down. And somehow we get that idea from our parents. You've got to live in a certain type of home. You've got to live in a certain home that costs so much. You've got to make so much money. You have these certain conditions that you have in life, in adult life, that you've got to attain. If you don't do that, then somehow you feel guilty. And we go through life sometimes based upon how we were raised, feeling guilty all through life. But yet there are religious teachings sometimes in our upbringing that can bring about guilt. Sometimes we don't feel enough compassion for the downtrodden and the poor and the troubled and the lonely. We feel like Galatians 6 and verse 10 is, "We therefore have opportunity, let's do good to all men." Do good unto everybody, especially those of the household of faith. Sometimes when we don't tell the truth exactly, knowing that Jesus is the epitome of truth. We speak ill of others, think hurtful and spiteful thoughts of them. We've done taught better. We're not the Good Samaritan. We've heard that story. We want to be the Good Samaritan. But somehow, when we leave, after we heard a lesson on Good Samaritan, it just kind of pales off into insignificance. And then later on, when we see an opportunity, as Brother Eddie prayed in his prayer, "Father, give us opportunities. Present opportunities to us. And help us to take advantage of it. And He does that all the time. And sometimes we can feel guilty. That was an opportunity. I didn't take advantage of that. I feel guilty about that. Because I know I'm supposed to preach the gospel. I'm supposed to teach people. I'm supposed to share with them. I'm supposed to let God love them through me and show them the greatest act of love that was ever shown to mankind through Jesus Christ. And so we're envious. We're covetous. Adam and Eve used free choice, and they chose to do evil. They knew they sinned. Balaam in Numbers 22, verse 34, guilty of going against God's will. In 2 Samuel 12, verse 13, David said, I have sinned. 1 Samuel 15, verse 24, Saul said, I have sinned. Seneca said, every guilty person is his own hangman, because we cannot possibly live up to all the ideals, all the times, and that we reproach ourselves. Based upon our teaching and our understanding, sometimes we see people who are unfaithful, and we say they know too much to leave the church. They know too much. Somehow when someone confronts them or talks to them or tries to encourage them or befriend them, they go away and they've got that tinge of feeling of guilt.